Have you ever wondered how much it takes to open up an auto repair shop? I'm going to show you today. How you doing, everybody? My name is Nestor Mendoza with The Mechanic OC, and today I'm going to teach you guys exactly how much it takes to open up an auto repair shop. Check out the rest of my channel because I do a daily vlog, I do tool reviews, and I talk about everything it takes to open up an auto repair shop. Make sure you guys turn on post notifications, subscribe, check out all my social medias, link in the description below. Alright guys, we're going to start off with the legal stuff that you need, then the equipment, and then we're going to go on to the expenses that you're going to be expecting once you open up your auto repair shop. Alright guys, before we start, I want to go over some points. The first one is that this list is for opening up a shop from scratch. This isn't it if you're opening up a shop that's already in business. That list is completely different from this list. This is if you have no equipment, nothing, okay? The second thing is that I will make specific videos for all these items so you guys know exactly how to do everything, okay? So we're going to go over marketing, opening day, deals, everything. So keep track of the channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification because I want to make sure that you guys get all the information you guys need. The second thing is that this list is a complete list for California only. Other states are going to be a little bit different. Normally what changes is the permit stuff. That's the only thing that's going to change. For the most part, equipment, obviously, but this list is for California because I'm in California right now. So if you guys are in a different state, it's a good overview, but just remember some things are going to be a little bit different. At my website, nestormendoza.com, you can see this entire list, link in the description below. It'll be a PDF there. You could download it. All you're going to need is just put your email in there so I can send you the PDF. But you get this entire list in PDF form at nestormendoza.com. Remember guys, you don't need all this stuff technically, but the more stuff you have in place and you have it all ironed out, the better. Because the last thing you want is to have an expense pop up that you weren't really expecting. Okay, so it's always better to have all this stuff in order, okay, and at least start thinking about it so that you can plan for it. The last thing you want is to have an expense come up and then you're screwed, okay? All right, guys, go ahead and get into what we need to do. First thing first is setup cost. First thing you're going to need is to incorporate. Incorporation costs about $1,400, and I always recommend you go to a lawyer and do it because people come to us to repair their cars because we're professionals, we know what's going on, we know how to do the job, it'll get done properly. Same thing with the lawyer. The last thing you want is for you to do your own incorporation and then you miss something, you don't do something properly, and then you get sued and the counterparty, the lawyer finds a discrepancy with your incorporation paperwork, and then you're liable for that problem, whatever they're suing you for. So it's always better to go to a professional and have them do it for you. Like I said, it costs about $1,400 with the lawyer, but if you do it yourself, it's normally about $800 to $1,200. The next thing you're going to need is your lease. Okay, most of the time, most places are going to ask you for first and last month's rent. Here at this shop, I pay $2,395 per month. And when I first moved in, they wanted first and last month's rent, which was $4,790, and then deposit of $8,000. So normally when you move in, that's going to be your biggest expense is the deposit and first and last month's rent. The next thing you're going to need is your advertising budget. Advertising budget for your first month is going to be pretty aggressive. Okay, $3,000 is what you need for you to start off with your advertising budget. The things you're going to need are going to be flyers, business cards. You're going to need to set up your Facebook page, your Google review page, your Yelp page, Angie's List, Yellow Pages, and any other marketing things that you want to implement. Any other form of marketing you plan on doing, just anything you want. $3,000 is normally a good budget to stick to when you're first opening up. After that, you can lower your budget depending on what's working and what's not working. But in the beginning, you always want to be aggressive and have a good budget to start marketing because remember, when you first start off, you don't have any customers. And the way you get customers is by telling people that you're open for business. So have a good marketing budget in place. The next thing you're going to need is your lift installs. Okay. When I first installed my lifts, I didn't do it myself because I wasn't comfortable enough with it. And I've seen enough videos out there of people messing up cars and cars falling on people to know that you want a professional to do this. It cost me $550. The next thing you're going to need is to build out and modify the space. A lot of times the space that you get isn't ready to move in or you need to modify things. You got to take walls down, you got to put walls up, you got to fix things. Normally it costs you around $2,000 to build out a space and get everything fixed up. Especially if the city wants you to do something, For the most part though, the company that owns your building will be able to do that for you, but it's always good to have a budget for it in case you do have to pay for it out of pocket. And remember, like I said, I'm gonna do a video on leasing and all that stuff so that you know exactly what to put in your lease, so that if you do have an issue with the city that they want you to fix something, like electrical or something like that, that the company that owns the building will pay for it, so you don't have to get out of pocket. But that's gonna be in another video. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when that video comes out. All right guys, the next thing you're gonna need is your permits. Now this is gonna vary between county and state, but for the most part, this is what you're gonna need. And I will show you guys what website to go to find out what permits you need. All you gotta do is just go to the website, put in your state and the county you're in and what business you're trying to run, and it'll tell you exactly what permits you need. Like I said, it's always a good idea to get all this stuff in order and at least start thinking about it so that when the city shows up, you have everything you need. But for the most part, most city officials are pretty cool. If you're just opening a business and you have a clean shop and you're actually a good person and trying to run an honest business, they'll be pretty lenient if you don't have a permit. You know, a city official will come in, they'll say, do you have this permit? You'll say, oh, I didn't know I needed that. They'll be like, no problem, go ahead and get it. I'll be back in 2 months and make sure that everything's in order. So don't worry if you don't have all the permits you need, but at least know that this is gonna be a good starting point. Okay, the first permit you're gonna need is your city permit or permit of occupancy. That one is $100. That one you have to go to the county or the city and tell them that you're gonna start a business. The city comes in, inspects the building and makes sure that everything's safe. If you do need to modify something, that's when your building out and modification budget comes in. The next one you're gonna need is your county permit. That one's $80. And that one is for the county, just to let them know that you're in business, you do have to pay taxes to the county. The next one you're gonna need is your hazmat permit. That one is gonna be for the county and for the state. They wanna know how much hazardous waste you have. That one will depend on how much hazardous waste you produce. That one normally is between $100 and $400 depending on how much oil and coolant you're going to be disposing of. The next permit you're going to need is the BAR permit or the Bureau of Automotive Repair. This one's pretty universal across the entire country. You need it to be in business. The BAR is the branch of the government that keeps track of all the auto repair shops and makes sure that they're not being shady or anything like that. That one's $240. The next one you're going to need is the resale permit. This permit allows you to buy parts at wholesale, and then parts stores don't charge you any taxes, but you do have to pay taxes to the state every quarter. That one is $130. The next permit you're going to need is your fire authority permit, and that one's $98. And normally the county or the city will send out a fire inspector and make sure the fire extinguishers are good, make sure the electrical is safe, and make sure that, you know, if you have any explosive gases, that those are safe. All right, the next one is going to be a new business website. This one, I got a couple quotes from a couple people, and it ranged between $300 and $1,200. I saw a lot of people on average charging about $800 or $850. I recommend you guys get a new website because you're going to need to be online, and people are always checking out your stuff and making sure that you can work on their car. The next expense you're going to have is signage. So this will vary depending on the size of the sign and then where it's located and how you want it. Obviously, if it's a neon sign or something crazy, it's going to be more money, but on average, they cost you between $200 and $650. All right, the next setup that you're going to need to do is your waiting room. The waiting room, I'm going to give you guys a list of the things you should get and how much they cost on average. All right, the first thing is going to be your chairs. You want around 5 chairs, about 45 bucks a piece. It comes out to $225. You want a coffee table for 150 bucks. You want a coffee machine for 65 bucks and a water machine for $110. You're going to need your printer and fax machine, which costs you $150. You're going to need your desktop computer, which is around $1,000. You're going to need a desk for $350. Your surveillance system, depending on what you get, is going to be between $700 and $1,500. Your credit card machine is going to be around $180. Security system and alarm is going to be $110 to set up and $35 a month. Your Wi-Fi setup is going to be $80 plus $235 setup fee. The total cost for all the items I just mentioned is going to be $25,328. Obviously, you could get this stuff down if you do it yourself, if you find cheaper prices, depending on the area you're in. California, this is pretty standard. Like I said, if you find stuff like cheaper, like Craigslist or OfferUp, I highly recommend you do that because you don't need to spend top dollar on brand new items to get your shop furnished and get things you need. Okay, so you could always find these stuff a lot cheaper. But basically, if you go and buy everything brand new, you're going to be spending $25,000 to get everything ready. Well, the next thing you're going to need is your tools and equipment. Like I said before, guys, you can find all this stuff a lot cheaper on Craigslist, and I'm gonna make a video on exactly what tools you need and the strategy you need to do when you're buying your equipment, but this is gonna be the prices if you buy everything brand new. I don't recommend you buy everything brand new because it's too much money. You can buy everything used and you'll be fine. But if you do wanna buy everything brand new, this is how much it's gonna cost, okay? All right, the first one is gonna be your lifts. The lifts is the most important things for a shop because that's how you make money, because you're gonna be quick when you have a car up on the lift. Normally, a lift will cost you $2,000 to $3,500 for a 10,000 pound lift, and you need at least two depending on the size of your shop. One is enough if you're a one-man shop, but if you have two guys, you're gonna need at least two lifts. The next thing you're gonna need is to buy a compressor. A compressor is between $2,000 and $3,500. The bigger the compressor, the better. The next thing you're gonna need is a press. A press is $150 to $600 depending on what you get. AC machine, $2,000 to $6,000. A workbench is around $200. Vise, $250. A strip machine that's wall mounted is $800. A brake lathe is $10,000. You can find it a lot cheaper on Craigslist. And a lot of you guys on the East Coast normally don't even resurface rotors. So, depending on the state you're in. Flush machines. For your transmission, it's gonna be $400. For your coolant, it's gonna be $400. You're gonna need a transmission jack, $500. An oil caddy is $140. Drain buckets, $70. Engine hoist, $150. A torch, $400. And any other hand tools that you have, you should already have that. And any scanners. I recommend that now as a shop owner, you should already have a good scanner that you use to reprogram cars, to set up stuff. So you should already have this stuff in there, but if not, make sure you put that in the budget. All right, guys, the next thing you're gonna need is to have enough money saved up for your shop expenses. I always recommend a new shop owner have at least 1 year of shop expenses saved up so that if you don't have any business coming in, you at least have enough money to cover your expenses so you're not stressing out. A lot of guys will go into business without having any money saved up, and that's a big problem because then they're stressed out, they're making mistakes, they're selling things they shouldn't be selling, or they're doing things because they're out of money. So always good to have a little reserve fund in the bank to have in case you run lean, you know what I'm saying? So this is gonna be all the monthly expenses that I have. This is gonna be pretty much what you're gonna have as well. I have other expenses that are, unforeseen, and because I've been in business a couple of years, but for you guys that are starting off, this is exactly what you're gonna need to have, budgeted for. The first thing is wages. As a corporation, you need to pay yourself. So you gotta at least pay yourself $1,000. I pay myself $3,000 because that's the minimum that I pay myself, and that's what I need to, live. So I pay myself $3,000 in wages. Your lease and the rent is gonna be $23.95. Depending on where you're at, it might be cheaper, it might be more. For here in California, I'm paying about $1 or so a square foot. This one is gonna be your sparklet or water, $32. Your telephone, I use my cell phone and it costs me $123. You could get a landline and it'll be way cheaper, but I like using my cell phone. Internet access is gonna be $235 here. I know it's a lot of money for my internet access because I have the fastest internet I could possibly get, so mine is $235. Your Mitchell program, Mitchell is very important to have. Mitchell All Data, because you're gonna need to know what codes are, how to do things, and Mitchell is a great program to have because it does your estimator, it gives you reminders to send out to customers, all that good stuff, and that's a subscription-based program which costs you $169 a month. The next one's gonna be your QuickBooks for keeping track of all your taxes and all that good stuff and your expenses. That one's $60. The next one is gonna be your office supplies. It's $100 a month to keep all your office supplies up to date. The next one is gonna be your security system. I use ADT and it's $35. Your marketing costs. Again, this could depend on you, but a good budget for marketing is $3,000. What I like to say is if I'm spending $1,000, I better get at least 5 times the return on that $1,000. So if I'm spending $1,000 on marketing, I should get at least $5,000 back from my marketing budget. So if I'm spending $3,000, I better get back $15,000 of business from new customers coming in. Okay, so that's normally how I gauge a marketing budget. Website and hosting cost me $12.30 a month. Shop cost, random shop expenses including maintenance, is $100. Uniforms is $45 that I pay to Ameripride. Your credit card machine costs you $14 a month. Your workers' compensation insurance is $216. Shop insurance is $280 a month. Shop car insurance is $80. Shop car maintenance fees is $50 a month. Shop car gas is $200 a month. Shop supplies, it's gonna cost you around $200 to keep all the supplies in the shop up to date. Monthly bank fees is gonna cost you $15. EPA and hazardous waste and oil recycling is normally around $60 a month. Training related materials and travel costs for training seminars and stuff like that normally comes out to $60 a month. My monthly expenses is $10,481 here at this shop as a one-man shop. Your yearly expenses is gonna be $125,775. Now, like I said, you always wanna save up at least 1 year worth of expenses. This includes everything that you're gonna need. But obviously, a lot of you guys aren't gonna have 125 grand sitting around, but the more you have for expenses, the better. Like I always tell people, if you're not making money or at least breaking even after 3 months, there's something wrong. If you don't have customers after 6 months that are paying at least your expenses, you're doing something wrong with your marketing, something's wrong, reassess the plan and figure out what the hell is going on, because you should be breaking even after 6 months, at least, especially with expenses that are only $10,000. You should be making enough money to cover all your costs after at least 6 months. If you're digging into your emergency fund more often than not, there's something wrong with your business and you should step back and look at it. The last thing we're gonna talk about is how to avoid mistakes when opening up an auto repair shop and your opening strategy. Now, this is gonna depend, like I said, always, but for the most part, a lot of the people that I talk to always make the same mistake, so I wanna give you guys a quick pointers on what to avoid. The first one is you won't be able to have everything accounted for. You're going to have unforeseen expenses. It's better to have capital ready in case you need something. Always have emergency funds ready in case something happens where like the company doesn't want to fix your building and then you're not getting your permits because you gotta fix the electrical and that could be $5 grand. So you always want to have an emergency fund ready. The list that I just gave you guys is gonna be a good list to start off with. It's gonna cover 90% of everything you need, but there's always 10% of unforeseen things that you just can't see, you just don't know because you're a brand new business owner. Another strategy that you need to have is to have everything ready and rolling before you open up. Have equipment ready, have a plan in place for your marketing, know exactly how things are going to be set up. It's always good to have a plan, guys, because if you don't, you're going to go into things blind and you're not going to be able to foresee things. And the reason why you need a plan is to make sure that you can see everything that could be coming at you. The last thing you want is to have an expense that is going to ruin all your business and then you're going to be screwed. So always have a plan in place. Another common mistake people have is that they don't focus on what's important. They focus on like things that don't matter. Right? So like when I had a buddy that opened up his business, he was worried about the airlines more than getting customers into his shop. He literally spent a month fixing his airlines because he thought that was more important than getting customers in. 3 months later, he closed down. Why? Because he was focused on things that didn't matter. Focus on the things that matter in the beginning. Later on, you focus on everything else. But in the beginning, the most important thing is that you get cash flow coming in. The next mistake is not being able to roll with the punches. When you open up a business, guys, you got to remember, things are going to come out of nowhere. So you have to know how to roll with the punches and be able to look at a problem, solve it, and keep moving. Okay, and not dwell on that problem because the past is the past and you got a business to run. So you can't stop. You got to roll with the punches and move forward. The next common mistake is that you're thinking that you need to have all this stuff to open up a business. Like I said before, guys, we can open up a shop and a garage and all you need is jacks and jack stands and your hand tools and you work on the floor, okay? You don't need to have lifts, you don't need to have this, you don't need to have that. But like I said, the more things you have ready, the better. But remember, if you don't have the money to buy something, but you want to be in business, get in business and worry about that later. Because remember, we can work on cars with just wrenches and sockets. We don't need air tools, but it makes it easier. So it's the same idea. You don't need to have that air tool because you could do it with a wrench and a socket. But it's always nice to have that, but you don't really need it. You know what I mean? The next mistake people make is they don't have a lawyer look at their lease and then they get in contract in a lease that doesn't favor them. I had a friend who got into a lease and every year they would raise up the rent by like an absorptive amount, like 25%. And at the end of like 10 years, it was going to be like they were going to be paying like 4 or 5 times the original rate. So be sure to have a lawyer look at the lease because these leases are written by lawyers and only a lawyer is going to know what the hell it means. So make sure you have a lawyer look at your lease. The next mistake is that people don't get their permits before they sign the lease. It's always a good idea to get everything rolling before you sign a lease because you don't want to be in contract and then you can't open up shop because you don't have your permits. Again, this happened to a friend of mine. He couldn't open up his shop for 6 months because the city wouldn't give him his permits, but he was already in lease and he had to pay. So always have a lawyer look at your lease and have all this stuff in order. I'm going to make a video on what to look for in the lease, so don't worry. But just so you guys know, always have a lawyer look at your lease. The next mistake is that people don't focus on growth quickly enough. You need to have cash flow coming in ASAP. So get your marketing plan in order, get customers in the shop, and get to work, because you can't waste any time in the beginning. In the beginning, you need to move fast and move quick. Move fast and move quick. But you need to get money coming in, guys. Get customers in your shop, get some work done. It doesn't matter what it is. Do engines, do transmissions, do whatever it takes to get money coming in. You need cash flow, okay? The next mistake people make is they don't find a location that's ready to move in. A lot of guys will just get excited and find a location and move right in, but it's always better to find a location that's already move-in ready, so you don't have to do any renovations. You don't have to do renovations for permits. It's already permitted. Get a location that's already as close to where you want it as possible. All right, the next one is getting your expenses ready for 1 year. Like I said, this is a hard one because it's a lot of money to have up front, but the more money you have saved up for emergency funds, the better. Hopefully, you don't need to dig into that emergency fund and you have that 125 grand sitting in the bank just ready for any other expansions that you want to do. But if you don't have any customers because your marketing plan isn't working, then you got to dig into your expenses. And a lot of times people run lean and they close down shop because they get stressed out, they make mistakes, and they just can't handle it because they don't have the money to pay for rent or expenses. So it's always good to have that peace of mind knowing, hey, if I don't have customers right now, I better hurry up and get some, but I at least got the money to keep going with my marketing plan until I get customers and to pay the expenses. The next mistake people make is that they don't account for their personal expenses. So when you open up a shop, we talked about your shop expenses, but you forget that you have your own personal expenses that you got to pay for too. And guess what? If you're in business, you're expecting that business to pay for your bills, pay for the shop bills, and then you have some money left over in the bank. But a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, I just opened up a shop and my expenses are 10 grand. Not remembering that their expenses are like another 10 grand because they got a house, they got a car, they got kids, food and clothes, and they got a wife. So you got to remember to keep those expenses in mind when you're calculating all this stuff. Don't forget that you got to pay yourself as well. So if you have to, you got to get rid of your car, you got to move back in with your parents, you got to get rid of all your bills, get rid of credit card debt, get rid of as many expenses as possible so you don't stress out about it. All right, guys, closing thoughts. Planning is a great way to ensure unforeseen things don't pop up too often. Planning allows you to solve these problems on your time instead of when you're forced to. Because remember, if you have a problem, you're going to have to freaking solve it. And it's better to solve it on your time rather than when it just pops up and you got a million other things going on. This alleviates stress. A plan is always a stress reliever. If you have a plan and you know where you're going to go and you know the direction that you're going to go, it's always better than being in the desert without a direction. And as you'll realize, the better you handle the stress and manage things that cause it, the better you're going to be at business. Because at the end of the day, the more stress you manage, the more money you're going to make. And this comes in play when you have employees, when you have customers that are not happy with your service. The more stress you can manage, the better you'll be at business. All right, guys, now you know exactly what you're going to need to open up your auto repair shop. You know how much it costs, what expenses you have, and what equipment you need, and the common problems a lot of you guys are going to run into. Now that you know, you're one step closer to open up your auto repair shop. But make sure you guys subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I put out new videos, because I'm going to be talking about leases. We're going to be talking to lawyers. We're going to be talking to a lot of people that are going to help you open up your auto repair shop. Make sure you guys follow me on all my social medias. And thanks so much for watching. Hit the like button if you like the video. Leave a comment and let me know if you have any other questions that you want me to answer that you're going to be struggling, that you need help with. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.